Hello all, my name is Shyler Stevens. I'm going to take you on a walkthrough for creating a MVC platform to also go on ahead and include some securities, uh, which will be IdentityUser in this case. And then we're going to show you how to run it as SQL Server and also as MySQL. So we're going to go on ahead and we're going to use Visual Studio. I'm using 2022 Enterprise Edition. I'm going to create a new project here. We're going to do it as an ASP.NET Core Web Application. If you don't have this, you'll want to go on ahead and search for it and install it into your Visual Studio. We're going to go on ahead and we're going to see. Select a different. Just going ahead and I'm going to put it in here. And then we're going to call it example MVC. And that will, you're going to see that pop up several times as we're typing everything out. All right, okay, now that we have everything started, we're going to walk through everything you need to set up an MVC, ASP.NET Core with identity protection for the user login. First things first, we're going to go on ahead and we're going to go into our CSS. We're going to add just a couple of things here that we'll be using later. We're going to add in basically some buffers and everything to clean up our project. Okay. And oops. Don't want that. Not sure why that's asking me to save. Oh. Okay. And then we're going to do one other neat little thing. We're just going to go on ahead and we're going to add an image in here. Give me a second. We're going to, in our root, we're going to add a folder and we're going to call it images. And then you can just paste your image in there. I'm just going to go on ahead and do that. It's just a home icon that we'll be using. All right. Next up, we're actually going to go through our views, as these won't cause us any issues later down the line. Okay, so first we want to add a folder here and we're going to call it account. And in account, we're going to add two things. We're going to add a login and a register. We're just going to add a view. Razor page is empty. We're going to call it account. And one more, add a view. We're going to call it register. Okay, under account, let me go on ahead and let's just grab those. Okay, and don't mind all the complaints it has. Those will get cleaned up later as we add the model and everything. Okay, so first off, this just simply gives us our title that we're logging at, that's up at the top under your tab. It'll just call it login. Okay, we're setting up some rows here. Telling the user log in their account, giving an error in case they failed to log in properly. And then our rows here are going to include the email address, the password, a submit button, a cancel button, and a register button. And you'll see those later. For register, I did that wrong. I'm sorry, give me a second. Okay, so for register, again, don't mind all the errors. So obviously the title is going to be sign up, telling the people to sign up. Gives them the email address, first name, last name, password, confirm password, a user role, which we'll get to see a bit more later. So we're going to give them the option of student, teacher, admin. And then the buttons are sign up and index. This is telling it where to go. Right here, if they cancel, it just goes back to the home index. Okay. All right. We're not going to, let's see. Yeah, we will mess with the index page here. Okay, so under home, our index, we're just going to change a little bit here. We're going to change it from the standard default to telling the person they can go to their dashboard, which is basically where we're going to have just our basic information. And now obviously you'd want to update that and include your own customized and everything. But right now we're just giving them their first name and their last name, which is pulled from the model, which is basically information that is sent to that, and you'll see that with the controllers. We're not going to mess with privacy. Shared. We want to adjust some stuff in the layout. The layout is basically your overall. This is your over encompassing that is displayed on every page. So basically your header and your footer. And then obviously, and then it can set some things up like certain users have certain authority and stuff, like you can set up, hey, are you a student? Well, you can only access this. Are you an instructor? You can only access this, and so on and so forth. Oh, I need to save all these. And we can go and close those out. And don't worry if you aren't getting everything as we go along, everything we're including in here. I'll go on ahead and provide you a link to the GitHub, or also a Google link for it. So you don't have to type all this stuff out. I know it's quite a bit to type out. Our last one we're going to do is going to be the dashboard. I'm just going to go on ahead and copy that directly in. You just create a new folder, create a new CSHTML just like we did with account. Okay, our dashboard is, again, it's just, right now it's just providing some basic information. You can see right here, we can see the roles. This would probably be more something that you would add to the layout, so you can provide different links dependent upon the role. And obviously you could create your own roles. You don't have to go with admin, teacher, student, whatever. So like I said, this is just basically an example of some of the stuff that you can do with that. Okay. All right, next we're going to do our models. Let's see. We're going to have a couple of models. Our models are what is used to basically, their main use is to build our database. Yeah, I don't need that. All right, we're going to add a new item. Oh, you know what? Actually, I do want a controller. Let's see. Something's not right here. Give me a second. New item. Oh, class. That's what I was doing wrong. I apologize. And this one is going to be AppUser.cs. Okay. Okay, so this is where we're getting our identity user in place. This is going to basically hash code out our user ID and their password and any other sensitive information. And we'll get to actually see all of that later. Okay, our next one, oh, actually that is the only one we're doing. Okay, yeah, that's the only one we're going to do for right now. Then we want our view models. Give me a second. Okay, our view models are what is basically storing all of our information as we're passing information from page to page. So anytime you want to gather any information from the database, store it temporarily, pass it on to the database and everything, you're going to be using the view models to do all of that information. So these are pretty simple view models right now. We have our login view model, which has your email address and password, as well as some information that's displayed. So like it'll display email address inside the box. It'll have an error message, email address is required if they try and do it without the email. And then the password errors are handled by the controller, and we'll get to see those in a little bit. Our register view model is a little bit more complicated. This validates that they enter in the proper information for the email address, tells them how to enter it properly. Well, tells them to enter a valid email address, I should say. It gives them an error for email address is required if they fail to enter it. And then the name inside the box again is email address. And then our requirements for first name, last name, confirm password. Password, confirm password. It tells them passwords don't match if they don't compare. And then also an error message telling them to select their role, whether it be student, teacher, or admin. Okay. So that basically handles all the errors and everything inside of the view based on what the controller sends to it. Thus, our view model, our handling of the models for viewing. Okay. All right. Next, we're going to do our controllers. Controllers, you do a add controller, controller empty, and then we're going to call this first controller account controller. Now you can name these whatever you want, but I highly recommend you just name them controller. It helps simplify things a lot. Okay, so our account controller here, the data, we'll get that in a minute. The data is used for handling the user roles and everything. Yeah, so that's why it's freaking out about the data and the context. Well, the context is handled in the program and stuff. We'll get to that later in a bit too. But this is basically telling it what it has access to. It has access to the user manager and the sign-in manager via the app user. You can remember our app user is our model right here. Okay. All right. This is sending it to the login page. It's just a get. Get means you are going to, post means you are coming from, you're posting the information from it. All right, so our login page here, again, we're checking to make sure they entered everything properly. Again, remember our login view model. If we go back to our login view model here, you can see all of these are required. They don't have a question mark next to them, thus they're required. So this says, hey, have I hit the requirements on that? Have they entered everything? Has everything in this view model been hit? Okay. And then the user, verify to make sure, verify that the email address is appropriate, finds the user based on that email address, and it says, oh, is it not null? Have we got an actual user here? We're going to check the password, and if it passes, then we're going to send the user off to their dashboard with all the information passed along. Okay. Let's see, result. Start sign in. Yeah, this verifies the result, the login password and the user and everything passes. All right. And if the user is not found, we're past their credentials. By the way, these falses, they're like two-factor authentication and stuff, and you'll see that that's the options and everything in the identity user. Okay. And then we have just sending to the register. Again, that's just a get. The post from the register, again, it's checking to make sure they entered all the required information. And you see everything as required, so they have to have everything entered there, or it's just going to send them back to that with this register view model. And that's how we get all these errors to display. And then, let's see, finds the email, verifies that the email is not already in use, because if the email is in use, we need to send them back and say, hey, email's already in use, and you can see that. Oh, that's not on there, I'm sorry. That's on the view. If we go back to register here, right here, and so this error message gets displayed there based off of this, okay? So we send them back with that information. All right, and then we grab all the information. So let's say all that passed. They entered everything properly. They're not using a repeated email. We're gonna pass the information, save it as a temporary new user with the app user information. Again, we can see our model here, our app user, grabs first name, last name. And then we also save the email. I apologize, it doesn't grab from that. And actually it does. The rest of the app user is handled by the identity user. That's right. I apologize. Couldn't remember. All right. So then we give them the role. We say, hey, is this role, has they said all the role information? If not, go on ahead and send that temp data error. And again, that's going to appear at the top, just like the email address already in use. Okay. And then we return them back to that same page. That's what return view does, is it just sends back to the same page we came from. Okay. And then we're checking the password and creating the new user with that password and sending all of that information to the adding role. We'll add the role in. And otherwise it's going to send invalid errors back, send them back to the view with invalid errors. If everything works, we're redirecting to action here. So the redirect to action, what it does is it says, okay, I want this folder. So this basically this, it's not really technically required here, but this is a great example. So this says, okay, I want the account folder. Actually, not the account folder, the account controller. So I want the account controller, and I want you to hit this login right here. So it's going to send us back to right here. It's going to send us back to the login view model. And because we're already logged in, it will change everything that's displayed on there. All right, and then our logout option. This is handled in the layout. Basically sends us, signs out the user and sends us back to the index from the home. Okay, so again, home controller index. Okay, our home controller. I don't believe we made any changes to the home controller. Actually, I apologize. We did. We did. That's right, because we made some adjustments for being able to display the user's information. Okay. Don't mind the errors right now. It's just because we have some things that are missing, and we'll get those in a minute. All right. So yeah, we changed some stuff with the index, checking the user, sending the information back to them. Okay. Alrighty. That takes care of those. We have one more controller here. We have our user controller. And the user controller is handling the user's login information, the user's information for the dashboard, basically. Probably the better controller name might be dashboard controller or something, but that's fine. We got user controller. All right, so we're sending the information to the dashboard. We're verifying to make sure that the user is authenticated. That way somebody doesn't just type, the URL to go straight to the dashboard and get information that they shouldn't have. So if it is not authenticated, it's just going to return them to the login page. Otherwise, we're going to gather the user's information, verify they exist, and provide that information back to this dashboard so that it can display like their username and their login basically their user. Right now we're displaying we're displaying the username and what role they are. So that's how we get that information to that view. Okay, next I want our data folder. Okay, I'm just going to paste that in. All right, so first things first, we need our database context providing the information to basically for our database and everything. We need our seeder. This seeds the roles in. This is something you're only going to want to do once. Once you have done it, we'll comment out the call for this. That's done in the program, so we'll get to that in a minute. And then our user roles. So remember we had admin, student, and teacher. This is how you're actually setting all of those up, and you're calling it based off of these right here. Why I kept this student, S and student, I don't know. It's capped. Though. Okay, so let's do our program.cs. Give me a second. Okay, again, we're still missing a few things here. We're missing the application DB context. We'll get to that in a minute, the entity framework and everything. Oh, yeah, there's some extra things I need to install on here. I apologize. I knew there was something I was completely forgetting. We'll get to those in a minute. All right, so remember I told you the seed right here. So this is our seeding. Again, we only want to do that the first time. After that, we don't want that anymore. Okay, and all right, so our different types of connections. So I've got the connection type for SQL Server. This is how this is sent over for the SQL Server, and this is done in the app settings.json, as well as the MySQL. It's currently set on MySQL. And I'm using MySQL Workbench 8.0, and you'll get to see that. You'll get to see that later in the video. Okay. Let's get our app settings.json done real quick. Oopsie. Okay. So here's our two different connection types. The top one is SQL Server, and the bottom one is MySQL. The password is I just randomly generated this. This is the password for MySQL Workbench. When you connect to the database, this is the password you're going to, the user ID and the password you're going to set inside of that. Okay. And this will automatically find MySQL Workbench. You don't have to worry about that. Okay. We need one more thing. I need to add a new item. We're going to call this Claims Principal Extensions. Let me make sure I spell this correctly here. .cs. Okay. Alrighty. Okay. So this helps handle our identity user interface. Okay. So next, last thing we need. All right, we're ready to go on ahead and install some extensions here. First off, we're going to go to NuGet Package Manager. We're going to need solution. We're actually also going to need our console. We're going to need that for a couple of things. But first, we're going to do some browsing here. We need components. Let's see. Quick guide. You see, I've already got those. Let me make sure we're getting the correct one. Entity framework adapter. We actually want 8.0.11 for this. And if you find you can use some of the newer ones, go on ahead. This is the ones that I have found work for this project. Okay, we're going to accept those. If you go too new, it may cause some issues with some of the other components. That's why I choose the version that I do. Okay. Next, we want our entity core framework core. And this one we want 8.0.11.1. Excuse me, 8.0.1. Accept. Okay. And then we want several from Microsoft Entity Framework Core. We want Rational SQL Server and Tools. Rational, we can go with 9.0. We want SQL Server. I have to click on the proper one, but that's fine. We want 9.0. And then we want tools. Oh, accept. And tools, we also want 9.0. And then let's see, tools, and we want our web code. Give me a second. That's not, oh, let's see, 8.0.7, okay, that's why it looks different. I want this version, accept. Okay, and the last thing we need is our MySQL. Now to get this, we're gonna have to use our package manager console. Remember, we got that from tools, NuGet package manager console. Okay, and we're going to install this manually. You're not gonna find it by searching the NuGet solution. So we want NuGet install package Pomelo entity framework core.mysql version 9.0.0 preview.2.ef core.9.0.0. We have to use this version because otherwise we end up with errors with connecting with some of the other things that we have installed, as well as our MySQL workbench, excuse me. Okay, so we're going to run that, and that will go on ahead and that'll install it. Okay. Now, if I do a build solution, we should end up with no errors. Give it a second. Oh, we do have some errors. Let me take a look. So this is good. We want to be able to views shared. Okay, give me a minute. I'm going to pause the video again to take a look at this. All right, I figured it out. Our problem was we accidentally deleted this error view model. We shouldn't have done that. That is why it was failing. And you can see right here, our build did succeed. I just went to build solution, ran it, give it a second. Oh, yeah, it's completed. Okay, so next we want to go to our package manager console. I was testing some stuff in here, that's why you see this already. But we need to do our migration. This is what's going to set us up for building our database. So we'll go on ahead and add migration. There we go, build succeeded. And next we want to update database. Okay, and this is what is going to actually update our database. This initial, by the way, in the add migration, that you can change it to whatever you want. That is just a variable that saves under our migrations. In fact, if we look here, now we have a migrations folder, and you can see right there, initial. All right, so that is everything here. And next we want to go on ahead and run this. We can hit either Control F5, which will run it without debugger, or we can run it with the debugger. The nice part about running it with the debugger is the fact that we could go into our controllers here and we could say, hey, I want to put a stop point in here. I gotta scroll down a little bit to put a stop point. Let's say we want to put a stop point right there, and we want to see what's going on. We want to see, let's say, down here we want to see what's going on with our model state, what's actually getting passed, what's not getting passed, what are we hitting, what errors are we getting. Okay, so that's the nice part about that stop point. In fact, just like just tinker with it. Once you've got this installed, tinker with it, take a look, and maybe take a look at your registration and see all the information. Once it's past this state, you'll get like a drop down right here, and we can see all of the information that's getting passed along. It's really, really interesting to see. Highly recommend it when you're troubleshooting.
All right, so we're going to go on ahead and launch this. The downside to running it with the debugger is it takes a lot longer to launch, and you can't really just flat out update it. All right. All right, and here is our beautiful homepage that we just created. There was one thing I noticed, the name for the login page, the CSHTML, we called it account instead of login. That was given some problems, so I went on ahead and changed that, and it will reflect in the files that I attached to this video. So we'll go on ahead and we'll hit login. Obviously we haven't created an account yet, so we're just going to go and hit register. We're going to give us an email address at test@test.com. And we're going to give it a password. Now we required that it has one uppercase, one lowercase, one special character, and one number. And you'll actually see that in the view model for the register. And it needs to be at least 6 characters long. So we're going to just go simple here. And then we're going to select a role. Let's say we're a teacher. Hit sign up. There we go. Now, obviously, you're going to want to block a lot of stuff and change some things. You aren't going to just allow anybody to willy-nilly create an admin or a teacher account or whatever, or even a student. So we're going to go test@test.com and go ahead and hit login. And there we go. There's our name, test, and it says we are currently a teacher. This is just a repeat for loop using Bootstrap. And then there's our little home symbol that we added, our image we added. So that's added in, just a fun little tidbit. And then we'll go ahead and log out, and we're done. Next, we'll cover the database. And the last thing we're going to show you here is our SQL Workbench. In here, our database, connect to database. Now, this is where you're going to be setting up, you'll actually set up your database that you're going to be connecting to, that we gave all the information for inside of our app settings.json. Okay, and I just have the password stored in here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to connect to it. We can see right here, here it is, our example.mvc, our tables, all of our roles and everything. And in fact, if we go on ahead and we do a query, select all from ASP.NET roles, run that query. Oh, come on, run the query. Oh, no database selected. Why didn't you select the database? I apologize. I should remember how to use this. Restart procedure. Create a new SQL type dummy. Okay. Select all from ASP.NET. There we go. Now it's actually populating them. All right, there you go. So we got admin, teacher, and student. Okay. And then if we do ASP.NET users, we'll be able to see our user. Okay. So there we go. First name's test, last name's test, username, normalized username, email, normalized email, email confirmed. That's where our first false was. Email confirmed. If you remember the false when we were logging in. Password hash. There you go. Our password and our ID hashed up. Security stamp hashed up. Concurrency stamp hashed up. We can also do phone number, two-factor authentication. That's our other faults. And lookout and lookout enabled. Okay. All right. So all of that is going to, aside from the first name and last name, is going to come basic standard with the IdentityUser. In fact, first name, last name might as well. Alrighty, that is everything. Again, I will post links to grabbing this MVC file. Make it easy for you. All right, thank you.